Namaste, lads and ladies. Welcome back to another tattoo story time. Today, we're going to be talking about probably my two favourite female. What are they called? Kitsune. What are they called? What are they called? Yeah, my two favourite kitsune, Yuzu and Sakachi? I was thinking of what's her name? Of the Native American woman who helped those two explorers kind of map out America, Sacagawea, but no, her name was Satsuki. Either Satsuki or Sakachi. I believe it's Satsuki. Yeah. And the interesting thing why I wanted to get them is because I needed some space to fill out on my arms. Basically, what I'm gonna do with my forearms is I'm gonna probably interpret some like rock or some clouds with like some orange type lava to like cover these small sections here, so it kind of makes one big sleeve basically. I don't know the depths of it. Maybe kind of like that burgundy look to how molten lava looks when it's finally like becomes sedimentary in a certain sense. But yeah, look out for that in the future. That's going to look great. It's going to be painful for me. As long as I can start to use numbing cream, then I think I'll be fine, really. So first of all, we have Yuzu right there. Little Yuzu there. If you can see from the top of the tattoo here, it's not actually coloured in. This bit killed. Like, she tried, my tattoo artist, bless her, this was like years ago as well. This was like 5 years ago. She tried her best to get the yellow in there. Like, if you can see on the yellow bits of her hair, it is yellow, but on certain patches here, it's mostly just skin, like my white skin. Because yellow is like one of the hardest to actually get indented into the skin, basically, because it's just such a bright colour. So she couldn't like make it stick unless they used some heavier like browns and oranges and stuff like that. Not like that golden beauty back there. That type of golden radiancy could not be captured in this tattoo, which is a bit of a shame. But I kind of like the red kimono, basically, the little lovely kimono there. I kind of was hoping more for her first kimono, in a certain sense, the one that had the flora patterns. But honestly, with the amount of spacing that she had to work with, there's not much she could have really done. It would have just muddied the tattoo altogether. Now, the one with Satsuki, I think, is probably my favourite out of the two. You probably can't see it from this angle. How do I show you this? Hang on. So, this is kind of what it looks like, in a certain sense. Very heavy on the purple. It's very, very heavy on the purple. With this tattoo, it was quite painful within the hair area because she really had to dig it in, because with purple it like runs out after a time. You know, it loses more within you know, like healing processes and like time dilation, so she had to really pack that in. And I kind of like the face as well. She's got kind of like a tsundere-s type face, where Yuzu is more, you know, clumsy happy look, basically. And the reason why I wanted to get these two done was because I really enjoy the anime and the book to the point of wanting to see something beautiful within that show, because not only was there good fan service, you know, left, right, and centre with the kitsune lasses and all that, but it had very great storytelling aspects to it. Like, you've probably seen the book reviews I've done of Konohanatei. Go and check those out. It's a very good book to read, definitely worth a little look, and some of the stories in that are just very, very good in general, really. So, there was the one story about the boy that kind of met this elderly gentleman within like the realms in between, which is basically Konohanatei, the hotel where they reside, and they kind of help people that have passed away move on to either heaven or hell, wherever they can go to, basically, wherever they're needed. So Konohana is basically that like that little getaway home, but it's also a place where like yokai and demons and other type of spiritual entities reside, basically, to relax, as a hotel is meant to be, basically. you know, how an inn is meant to be represented basically to all people that go there. You know, the customer is always right, and the customer should always be put forward first, basically, since they're paying customers, as it is really. I mean, technically, these people are not paying customers. Although I think the yokai are, but the people that pass on that go through there are not, because, you know, I think their payment is their life that they've lived, basically. So, yes, the one with the boy and the elderly gentleman, they form a bond, they have a relationship, and in one way, shape, or form, you know that these two know each other, and you know that they've helped each other throughout life, basically. And I love that story so much because it turns out the boy basically grows up alongside the elderly gentleman, and they both die together, and then they move on together. It shows that the boy was actually a dog. You know, it was because the elderly gentleman lost his wife or something like that, and his family decided to get him a puppy, and the puppy helped him to kind of bring him out of his shell and help him see a way forward, basically, because it's very hard for someone who has had a relationship with someone for so long and then to lose them. You know, it's going to put a toll on you, especially when, you know, that's the love of your life. It's tenfold much worse for the person to be able to move on with their lives in a certain sense. But that is why I really value dogs over cats half the time, because dogs do nothing but want your attention, love, and devotion, and crave it, basically. You know, you have some people that might say, oh, you know, dogs are too easy to please, you know, that not really that much reliable. Well, I'm sorry, but they are probably more reliable than cats are in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, cats probably go out and survive better, and they can, you know, fend for themselves and all that shit, but they're just ungrateful. You're very ungrateful, whereas dogs, you know, you can feel the warmth that generates through them with their actions and their behaviours in a certain sense. Some animals pursue that action and that behaviour, but none more than dogs, basically. We've trained dogs for the longest periods of time. We've domesticated them ever since the Ice Age, basically. So it's no wonder that there's a reason why we call them man's best friend, basically. So I kind of wanted to get Yuzu to kind of represent the kindness that she has throughout the entire series, because Yuzu is kind of like the embodiment of like this pure, gentle soul that is meant to be, you know, this leading light within the hotel, basically, that helps people move on from one place to another. And Satsuki, she's kind of an interesting person because I wanted to get her because she's closest to Yuzu. And she learns a little bit more about how to express herself and to become more, you know, emotional with her friends in a certain sense. It's not all too good to be too emotional, but then, you know, it's bad to not have any emotion at all, basically. And that's kind of where Satsuki was at the beginning. You know, she was always like very spiteful, very snappy, very argumentative, and you know, there was discipline, and she was good at her job, you know, but that was all she had, basically. So of course she had to get good at some point, or otherwise it's just not going to turn out well for her in the end, really. But the interesting thing with Satsuki is she did grow over the season as it spanned out with Yuzu, because, you know, she was just such a big ball of like kindness and love, basically, that she can like exude that to everyone that she meets, basically. You know, kindness will take you a very, very long way. I'm not saying that you can't get through life on your own, but it is damn well better when you have someone, you know, with you during those dark times. And especially it's even better during those light times, basically. You know, they make the whole situation better, really. So it's kind of good that I got Yuzu and Satsuki, because they both represent like a dark and light in a certain sense, kind of like the tattoo I've got on my back that I'll probably explain later on about my in-depth analysis between judo and jiu-jitsu. Of course, you all know I love my martial arts, and judo and jiu-jitsu was my first, you know, martial art that I practiced. I mean, obviously karate was the one that I took up originally, but I learned long before about Professor Kano and his like idea of putting like the Marcus Queensberry's idea of making the padded hand, but he made a padded like floor basically, so people could train for hours in a certain sense. That's why it interested me so much to hear about this elderly gentleman that was able to floor people that were 10 times his size basically. It just really outstanded me. But I'll talk about that when I come to that tattoo story time. But yes, Konohanatei was one of those really whimsical and beautiful books to read, but also they've actually expanded it within the anime. Like the backgrounds, the visuals, and the characterization of some of the people were very spot on. Like there was this one scene with this woman who would like she was a dressmaker or like a clothes maker for the gods and goddesses of Japanese folklore, and she would use, I believe it's either the wind or the stars or some or like light, I believe, to like create the fabric that she would weave into the dress in a certain sense. I can't remember what she used. I think it was a star, but just the idea behind that story is so gorgeous. Like I love the idea of being able to pluck a star out the sky and then weaving it within clothing in a certain sense. Like it really over accentuates the story into a certain degree, but I quite like the idea of like adding that mystical side to it because it like makes it so much more intriguing, really. Kind of like how they talk of valor and heroism, like you know, Samson was a great and you know a noble being, strong being, due to his long locks of hair and all that stuff. And it was very unfortunate when his wife cut his hair off and then he lost all of his strength and all that, which was a lesson to keep those close to you at an arm's reach, depending on you know the situation in a certain sense. I believe that was Samson and Delilah. Yeah, Delilah was her name. Yeah, but that might actually be an interesting review. Maybe I might review the Bible one day. You know, as much as people like to say, you know, even if you're not, you know, a faith goer, it's one of the greatest books known to man, really, because it's stood the test of time. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a faith believer or not, really. It's still like filled with good stories, like the one with Abraham and his son, how he did all these things for God's will, and then when it got to killing his boy, spoiler alert, he doesn't kill his boy. He got damn close though. And I kind of like the Family Guy joke behind it, where he's, you see after the events of what's transpired, like Abraham's walking down the hill with his son, and his son's behind him, like, do you want to tell me what the fuck that was? You know, and sorry, spat there for a second. So the interesting thing with that is how very expansive the Bible is and how the story is done basically. You know, it's just a great story to tell. Like my favorite story is the one of I can't remember who they were. I'm just going to say the Jewish, the Arab, and the Israelite. I know Israelites are the same as Jewish. I believe. Oh, I can't remember the different ones. Let's just say the Moroccan, the Arab, and the Jewish person. So the first person who came across this person who was like lying on the side of the road, completely covered in flies and bloodied, just didn't pay attention to him, like didn't pay attention to it all. The second person that came across was worried, but smelled him and then got freaked and ran away basically. And then the Arab came around, who was basically like the enemy of certain people who would hear Jesus' stories and all that. He was the most willing to go and help the person and all that. And that is more of a truer story in like modern day times when it comes to war, basically, like with what's going on with Ukraine and Russia at the moment and all that. You know, it's great to hear that Ukraine have been pushing Russia back. And what I love about war, it's not black and white. You know, there's always some grey. Everyone has done some awful things, you know, and I mean everyone. No one is innocent. But it's nice to see, like, with the civilians of Russia, like, there are some protesters that are against mobilization. Of course, they should be, really. Like, the president is willing to throw their lives away to save his own skin. So, you know, what can I say? And the interesting thing with that is that it was the same in the Second World War and the First World War. Like, at least within the First World War, there was honour, you know, among people. Whereas in the Second World War, we saw more of the evil inhumanity that some people had in their hearts, whilst, like, take the film Schindler's List, basically, where it's at the end of the film that I find really heartbreaking, because he's not proud of his work, because he felt like he could have done so much more and helped so many more people. And the fact that everyone who he has saved just surrounds him and just embraces him, it just shows you that the man has done more work than, you know, the average person has done, basically. And I kind of like the ending of Schindler's List, where they all go to visit Schindler's grave, and they place pebbles around his gravestone to show how many lives he has saved, basically, throughout the entire ordeal of the Holocaust, basically. So, yeah, it's a great film, great film. Yeah, came here talking about one thing and then moved on to another, but yeah, it was an interesting story behind that. You know, when my mum went to go watch it the first time in the cinema, it was that scene where one of the officers was about to shoot one of the unfortunate workers who was within the factory, like cold blank behind him. And then my mum, bless her, she like stood up in the cinema and was like, "Well, why don't you shoot him, you fucking bastard?" And I'm like, good on you, you know. And everyone started clapping and cheering for her and all that stuff. Kind of reminds me of when I went into the cinema to watch Avatar. Best film of my life. I've never seen a better film than Avatar. James Cameron pulled it out of the bag, and I'm really hoping he doesn't drop the ball with the second film, because it's based on like this underwater world where we get to see more creatures and more plant life and more interesting things under the water. A part of me, like with my thalassophobia, is kind of, I'm not sure about it, because I don't like the open ocean, like the murkiness of it all. So there might be some sections like that, so I might not really enjoy it, but I'm going to pull through and watch it, because it might be the best film of the year if it really lives up to the hype. Because when I watched the first film, God, I love it, because I love Native American culture. I love how they intertwined it with like the dystopian alien world of Pandora, basically. I'm just going off about films that I love, really, and it shouldn't be about that. But hey, I'm just here to ramble. Sorry, ramble. So I will be looking out for that in the future. So, yeah, so those are my tattoos for Yuzu and Satsuki. So I believe I've got one more tattoo on my forearm, one on my upper arm, and another, I believe, another two on my upper arms. I've done most of the tattoos on this arm. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go from my arm, move to my chest, and then move to my neck and then back. And I'll probably cover maybe newer tattoos depending on where they're positioned on my body, because I'm doing like my leg basically next time, and then I'm going to try and figure out what I can do with my forearms to try and like you know, cover all this up. Basically, I'm not covering up the tattoos obviously, but I want to get these like areas that are open filled in, basically, you know, to make it pop more, you know, because honestly I'm only a little bit tanned on top, very pale on the bottom. No one likes a pale boy, you know, so I think it's just best to get my entire arm sleeved, basically, and I might get the other side done depending on what I can do. Maybe I might do like a hot and cold. Ooh, I've got some ideas going. Maybe I might get like a magma, earthy, like gravel type look on this arm, and a more glacial water style waterfall look on this arm. Ooh, traditional Japanese water. I've got an idea. I've got an idea. Hot and cold. I like the idea of that. Yeah, I'm gonna brainstorm. I'm gonna brainstorm those ideas. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Can't wait. Yeah, because yeah, if you want to have a look at my Gardevoir tattoo again, how it looks with the Rani tattoo. See all that? See all that? All that? That is a lovely looking sleeve. That is a lovely looking leg sleeve, that. Very nice. There are a couple of spaces where it's kind of not filled in, but honestly, I'm fine with that because most of it is already covered. The Sakura petals look gorgeous, Gardevoir looks gorgeous, and Rani looks goddamn beautiful as well. So, one leg down, other leg to do. Add some more stuff onto that leg first, maybe then get that filled in. Then I got to deal with the hot, then I got to deal with the cold. It's gonna be great. My tattoo story is not over yet. I will be doing more and more as the days go on, basically. You know, by the time this year's over, I'll probably have about 5 more tattoos, so I hope to share more of those stories with you, lads and ladies. So, until then, I will see you in whatever I do next around here. Take care, my friends.